we're delighted to be here in Turnaround Club in North Armagh, Portadown, for the first ever, we can say, live debate on the Armagh Championship, Junior, Intermediate and Senior. We're here with sponsorship from the GAS store to make the event possible. We've got a very distinguished panel of guests at the minute. It's one of the most interesting senior championship, intermediate and junior for a long time, probably the most interesting. We had Cross McLean dominating the senior for 19 out of 20 championships, but they've set the bar very high for other clubs, which is starting to progress everybody in the county. We'll have a new team there in the block. Ballymacnabb won the league this year. Armagh Harps trying to retain their title. We'll have Cullyhannon looking pretty well at the moment, and another plethora of teams in behind them. For example, Maher, you can't rule them out yet again, looking to win their title back for the second time in 3 years. And another host of teams who want to push themselves forward in the senior championship. When we spoke about organising this event, we talked about the intermediate championship being probably more competitive. There's so many teams there, like you have St Peter's, Cullaville, St Paul's the top teams in that section. St Peter's were the champions. It's very difficult for them at the minute. They're going to have to do the double of other teams champing at the bit to get in there as well. But we're going to see how it works out, and we're going to bring the boys back here when the knockout stages come up on the quarter-final stage later in the year. As I say, we're turning over the home of former Armagh player Brian Mallon, Paul Carville, Barry McDonald, to name a few, and of course Andy McCann, who played in the famous 2002 team in the All-Ireland final win against Kerry. I was talking to Joe McManus during the week. He said Jack Bratton, the Harps man, actually played for Turnaround as well and won a junior championship with them. So there's a lot of history in this club, and as you can see behind us here, Turnaround are celebrating their 75th anniversary this year, and Desi Henderson behind the bar here in the club are going to throw their work behind it, and we're coming back with them to visit here yet again later on in the season. It's time to introduce our esteemed panel. On the far side, playing outside right there, former professional soccer player he was, Seamus Heffron. Seamus was uniquely the first manager in Armagh to win an under-21 championship back in 1988, Seamus.
That's right, yeah.
He played for a team, we've called him a blow-in for quite a number of years, but he's teaching St Michael's School, and he's every got his home up in Waddy Greaves and Glen and County Derry as well, with a few of the Derry boys up there. But he set himself up in Lurg. He's been up here about 40 years, coached several Clonard teams. His son Shea Heffron was a member of the Armagh squad, hopefully be back there pretty soon. He's had a fantastic year with Clonard, and Seamus has coached a lot of the Clonard boys, but he's also been involved with several clubs, and St Ronan's and St Michael's team who were involved in McCrory and Hogan Cup campaigns. So you're very welcome, Seamus.
Okay, thanks very much.
Next man there sitting, there's a lot of history behind him, young Michael Austin. He had his boots on last week playing in the Reserve Championship final in the athletic grounds. But Michael would be the grandson of the famous Brian Seeley. Brian would have been the man who was the youngest member of the Armagh team in 1953 at the age of 19, Michael.
That's right.
He went on to have an esteemed career with Clan Gale in Lurgan, but most importantly, he led the clans to 5 Ulster titles, 5 Ulster championships in a row, winning 3 of them, 72, 73 and 74, with a load of league titles and probably 9 championships in that period. And Brian still lives in Lurgan, and Michael has the hand of history on his shoulder, as the saying goes. But he's looking after it well. He's now the manager of Clan Gale senior team, and we're looking forward to having him here today. Next man has been described as, in many terms, number one has been a super coach, John Morrison. John has managed ladies teams. He's managed the Armagh setup with Jim McCarry. He does a lot of coaching down south. He's a member of the Armagh Harps Club. His son Patrick was one of the esteemed members of Armagh Harps team last year, which won the championship. They were the sleeping giants in Armagh, and they're going to be the team to beat probably this year again. But John's knowledge of GAA is phenomenal. Saying goes, he's been around a few clubs, around a few county setups. He's been an innovative figure for a long time, and he's probably 20 years in front of his time. John was bringing ideas and articles up years ago that have now been implemented. One of them is the kickouts, the science behind it, and he's looking forward to the debate. He's going to come back later on in the year to have a chat with us. But last and not least is a gentleman from the Mullaban Club in South Armagh, Peter McDonald. And Peter McDonald was the last Armagh manager, ironically, to win an Ulster senior title back in 2009. He had a very good year this year, retrospectively, with the Armagh under-20s, along with Martin McQuillan and another Portadown man, Gary Mallon. And Peter's very welcome here today. He was a top sprinter in his time, at one stage in the past. He's a member of the Mullaban Club, but he has a serious, in-depth knowledge of club football in South Armagh, and he's looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.
We're going to have a look at 3 of the championships. It's the first time this has been done in Armagh, so we wish everybody well in the county this year. The county board have done a fantastic job. Jimmy McKay in particular with the setup around the whole structure. He's been fantastic all year, giving stuff to me, particularly in the press. And the championships are unprecedented, to say the least. The junior championship has started. We're going to talk about it briefly. John's going to have a word about it. He's our junior championship correspondent at the minute. We're going to talk then about the intermediate championship, and we're going to go on to look at the big one, the senior championship, which is probably wide open as it ever has been. We're going to have a quick chat with Desi Henderson about Turning Oak here. It's their 75th anniversary this year. They have a lot of work put in place, and we're going to go from there. So basically, lads, get yourselves organised and we're ready for action. The nerves all settled, all ready to go.
Shane's
John,
twitching, he's nervous, are you?
John Morrison, John, junior championship. How many teams can win it?
Well, theoretically, anybody can win any championship. But for me this year, the team for me this year is Katie. They're also for me a team out of place. Katie should be battering around the second division, intermediate, top intermediate, bottom of the senior ranks, and trying to push into the top. They're unbeaten this year, and it's hard to see anybody beating them. But possibly the team that's finished behind them, Portmore, who've had Ulster Club Championship experience already. They're a very progressive club this last couple of years under Paul Turley and others. They've restructured the whole coaching structure, and they have a chance. Behind them, I mean, there's 13 teams in total in the junior section. But for me, the winner will come out of the top 6. The third team is Derry News, who are always pushing, but I do feel like most clubs, including the famous Slot Neil, dual clubs, both sports are hindered in terms of winning championships because you're stuck between 2 stools. The fourth team, Clady started the league with 6 unbeaten wins and looked as if this was going to be their best year. They've done a lot of work because they've been up a few times with them this year. But I still think I'm looking back to the top 2. After that, College Land finished 5th in the league, or 4th. But they're more a championship team. College Land are renowned for their championship exploits over the years. They won the senior championship in the past. The two teams that could cause them all trouble are the 2 South Armagh teams, Balik, who are always hard to beat, and Lesumman. They give you everything. But I think, and I was talking to the boys in the panel here, it's very hard to get past the club Katie, who've been unbeaten on the year and just walked away out of the league.
They're your prediction, John?
Well, I think Katie's ranked favourites, but deservedly so. And it's after that who's going to beat them out of the next 5.
Okay. Fitness wise, I mean, what's the level of fitness like at that level? I mean, obviously they're doing as much as some of the intermediate and the senior teams. They're obviously taking their own championship seriously, so that's going to have a big bearing on it.
I think it's not a question of fitness. A lot of them try today to match the people. I think it's planning and perception of how you play the game, and I suppose commitment as well. It's very hard down at the junior ranks. I mean, we weren't even going to talk about them today. You threw it in.
Yeah.
You know, they deserve as much credibility in the sport as the top teams do. I mean, the lifeblood of them.
Okay, John. That's the junior section talked about. We're going to move on to intermediate. Obviously, we've broken into 4 sections at the minute. We're going to have Group A, which is Clondegale, Grange, Crossmaglen and Ballyhagan. Group B is particularly tough looking: St Paul's, Wolftone, Shane O'Neill's and Forkhill. Group C, Cullaville, Caircroppen, Middletown and Earl Oak. And Group D, St Peter's, the league champions, Mullaban, Tullysharn and Clonmore. Michael Lawson, you said it was tough.
Yes.
It's tough.
It's tough. It's going to be a tough championship, there's no doubt about it. Eugene, for me, people will probably tend to look at the top 4. you alluded to the top 3, but there was a top 4 in the league, and that was St Peter's, Culleval, St Paul's and Clonagale. For me, that doesn't tell the whole story. There's another 2 or 3 teams that probably lurking about under that in terms of league form, but would certainly be considering themselves capable of winning this championship, or at least challenging for it. An interesting team for me would be Mullabon. Their league probably didn't go according to plan. They would have liked to have been maybe further up it, but it'll take a really good team to beat Mullabon. It'll take an even better team to knock them out of the championship. Wolf Tones and Shane O'Neill's. Shane O'Neill's won their league, so they've already got momentum. They've got an amazing setup down there. They play football really well. We had a lot of really tight games with them in the 2B league 2 years ago. Good players, good setup, good structure, good philosophy, and having won their league, they've already got momentum and confidence. And there's not a huge amount of difference between 2A and the top of 2B and vice versa. You could say that about all the leagues. They'll be a hard team to beat. Now, interestingly, they're in a group of death. There's a group of death in both championships, but in the intermediate, there's Group B, which is St Paul's, Wolf Tones, Shane O'Neill's, and Fork Hill, and that's a really, really intriguing group, a really interesting group. The Wolf Tones, I think, have been trying to shape their whole season towards having a championship tilt, and that will very much come from their manager, Finney and Mayorty, and they'll not be easy beaten. They'll see themselves as contenders. Fork Hill, the team that nobody wanted out of Pat 4 was Fork Hill. 3 county players. 2 years ago they were in Division 1, 2 or 3 years ago they were in Division 1. A team that would be very, very difficult to beat. So really any of the 4 could come out of Group B, you know what I mean? And it's also interesting, what we'll have to factor in here is the way the championship's set up. So the group winners go straight through to the quarterfinals. I'm right in saying that, yeah? And then the second team plays a third team from the next group, and the third plays a second, vice versa. So even though there's a group of death, I think all 4 of those teams will be more than capable of getting to at least the playoff for the quarterfinals. You know what I mean? So winning the group, although it will be everybody's aim, because it gives you that added incentive of a week off between the group stages finishing and the quarterfinals, which at that stage could be critical in terms of injuries and all the rest. But it's certainly not the end of the world for anybody, particularly if you're in a so-called group of death. For me, Fork Hill have been mentioned as potential dark horses for this championship. I think they've a lot of work to do. If they don't win the championship, they're playing in junior football next year. Now that'll be their 3rd consecutive relegation. Now that tells its own story, that maybe they're struggling with injuries. There may be 2 or 3 players short. But it's a team that I know closely. 3-4 years ago we played them in the quarter semi-final of the intermediate championship, and they beat us roundly, and they were a fabulous team then. Now I don't know what's going on. Peter, actually, we were chatting before it, and he knows a lot about the club being from Mullabon. Players missing, injuries and all the rest, but personally I think they have a lot of work to do to win an intermediate championship. They'll probably just be looking an extended run on it. So from that, I think you've got a potential of 7 winners of the intermediate championship out of 16 teams. The top 4 in the league will all fancy their chances of giving it a go. You've got Mullabon, my dark horses, you've got the Wolf Tones, and you've got Shane O'Neill's, and Fork Hill remain there to prove me wrong, basically. In terms of predictions then, I think the top 4 that finished in the league will all make the quarterfinals. What way they make it there, I don't know, but I think they'll all be in the quarterfinals, and then things get really interesting.
Peter, just to bring you in for a second, I watched Mullabon last 2 weeks against St Peter's. They were roundly beaten, but they're seriously young, a very, very young team. You have Culleval knocking on the door, 2nd place. You have Clonagale there as well, among other teams. St Paul's finished 2nd, joint 2nd. St Peter's won the championship. That Mullabon team are very, very young. Peter, is there a plan in place to moving forward?
Yes, there's been a good group of youngsters coming through the club now these last few years, and this present players that are on the senior panel is the leaders of that group of players. There's a lot of them unavailable at the moment. They're playing football elsewhere. There's a few of them in the States, and there's a few of them in England. It would depend on having full availability of all the personnel. That would be the first thing. I think this might be just a year early for Mullabon at this time. I'd have to say that I'd find it very difficult to look outside of Lurgan for the winners of the intermediate, between St Peter's, St Paul's and Clonagale. Just based on what I saw this year, I think there that, you know, St Peter's, with Aaron Findan in the middle of the field, he was very dominant in Mullaban, and Mullaban would have quite a tall, big team, and Aaron was dominated that area. Niall McConville is a tremendous club player, always very, very dangerous. But I saw St Paul's there a couple of weeks ago, and they were sort of playing football in second gear until they introduced Andrew Moran.
Yes, of course.
And there was a metamorphosis in the team. They went from mediocre to being very, very effective. And with an outlet like that in the full forward line, I'm looking around the intermediate full back lines throughout that competition, and I can't see anybody being fit to cope with Andrew Moran.
Just an interesting thing, Peter, one of the top teams in the county for years was Carrickcruppen. When the Clonagale were ruling the roost, Cruppen were always there with the Lochherns, and God rest Peter was there and stuff. Cruppen aren't the team they used to be. Had a lot of players away.
Yeah, they sort of find themselves in a very difficult situation at the moment. There's been a lot of talented footballers going through Carrickcruppen. There's been a lot of hard work in the Carrickcruppen club. There's been a band of devoted club members there who have worked hard to hold the whole thing together. They're being squeezed from all angles. So their catchment area mightn't just be as big as what it once was. But they seem to be just, you know, whatever has impacted them this year. But Carrickcruppen is a club that's always capable of producing good footballers. And I just think at this point in time they need a few more putting their shoulder to the wheel. And I can't see them doing anything other than struggle in this year's championship.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. Yeah. Seamus, just to bring you in on the far side there, St Peter's won the league. They went to Cullaville, a very difficult place to go on a Wednesday night, and they won that game, beat Cullaville, who are going to be still there in the championship. When a team picks, sometimes they have their win. Can they come back and win the championship after winning the league? Is it going to be hard for them?
Just following what Peter said there, it's very interesting. I honestly feel that St Peter's can win a championship because they've got proven players, they've proven experience. And again, I don't want to harp on about it, but Findan is a big, big plus in the middle of the field, and McConville. Those guys are so important for their success, and they're playing really, really well at club level. Coupled with the fact they've got good backbone as well, good experience.
Yeah. I'm seeing McConville as, without putting pressure on the lad or the team, as one of the pound for pound best club players in the county, from my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's man marked every game, but he always gets space. He's like when Aaron Kieran was at his best, he's always getting space on the ball, always the time the ball. It doesn't matter whether put 2 men on him or 1 man on him, or a quick player or whatever, a physical player, he always gets space and he's clever. And he's one of the pound for pound top players. I think the other one I would say would probably be Ryan Henderson for Clonagale. Talking about that in the seniors, who's been fantastic his last number of years for them. The fact that they brought him out around the middle made him even better. But the teams you see would be probably St Peter's, Clonagale, St Paul's,
obviously.
And Cullaville. The top 4 would be fighting at the end of it.
Not being partisan, I feel the northern teams do have a great chance there now.
Yeah. John, how do you see it going? You've Tullysharn in there, you've Clonmore in there, you've Ballyhagan in there, you've Grange. Have you spoken with them?
Well, the Grange and Clonmore both were relegated, and I think they're going through a serious period of transition, trying to find team. Brenton Donaghy probably for Clonmore is near the end of his career, and they have a very young team that's around him. But I would agree with Michael. The 4 seeded teams will probably make a semi-final. The problem for me is that both St Peter's, St Paul's and Clons have excellent individual players who can dominate a game. But both Cullaville and, for me, Mullaban are a danger, and Shane O'Neill's are another danger. They are a team. Mullabone's problem at the moment, as Peter alluded to, it is they have a phenomenal amount of talented youngsters. I've watched the last couple of years when they played in finals between them and Crossmaglen, plus Clonerne, throw them into that mix with youngsters. And they have a team that will win a championship quite soon, I think, Mullabone. So it's not as clear cut as we think it is. It is, those leagues were very competitive, particularly the one where St Paul's and Clonagale and Cullaville were in. But I do feel that you may get one of the North Armagh teams in the final, but you'll certainly have one of the South Armagh teams there as well.
Look, I'll just ask you one thing, and I wanted to put to you before it goes right in my head. For a long, long time, if you look at mid-Armagh football, for a long time, Harps and Pearshall won everything at youth level. Until that wee Greenmore team came through, a very, very good minor team in the early 2000s. And then they started to break the mould. We'll talk about Ballymacnabb in a minute. I mean, is that good for mid-Armagh football, John, when you have other teams starting to knock on the door?
You see, it's all right to praise players that have come through, but the phenomenal amount of work. I mean, there's two young lads with Greenmore at the moment, both played for County, Brendan Roberty and Michael Murphy. Plus, you had Charlie Doyle. You have Mickey McGivern and quite a number of people with Ballymacnabb, because, I mean, every summer I'd be up there with their summer schemes, and it was up with the combination of their minor teams there just over the last couple of weeks. So, they were the whipping boys from Ulster for years, actually laughed at. We're going to beat these boys by about 60. Now, they restructured, it took years and years, and they went all over Ireland to get the best advice, and it's working. Now, the other thing that I don't think any of us have mentioned, but Ballymacnabb this year are very shrewd, and St Patrick's as well. Because we mentioned three names, Bernie Murray and Paul O'Connor done phenomenal work, the Monaghan men, all county players, ex-county players, good ones too. With the Nab and Ian McEnany is up the road in Cullyhanna. Now their influence, they're still a threat.
Okay. The intermediate championship is going to be really, really tough. We're going to take a lot of strength condition coaches to get the teams over the line. Michael, league campaigns aside, reinventing the team for the championship is very difficult, as you know. It's very, very hard. Is there a chance that Stephen Campbell may be back if Clonagale reach the quarter final?
Well, that depends on how his championship goes over in the States. It's factors beyond our control, beyond Stephen's control.
Who's he playing with, Michael?
I'm not sure. He's in New York.
Okay.
Westmeath, I think, but that's a guess. He would certainly be a welcome injection to the team, to any team, and particularly for the quarter-final stage, like we just said, that when things get really interesting. But Stephen is a factor, and people have asked me that before, but it is only one player, and John has quite rightly said it's going to be a team that wins this championship. And I think that you would be doing St Peter's a hell of an injustice there not to mention them in that bracket, and I'll tell you why. For that whole league campaign, and it wasn't an easy league to win, and it was a league that they tried to win. We all tried to win it. Every single challenge that I seen from the outside that was put to them, the past, and you know, at the risk of being controversial, I expected Cullaville to beat them in the last match. You know,
I think a lot of people did.
And I'll tell you why, because due to the refixtures that were thrown into each team, we all had a very congested finish to the league. They had a really difficult match against ourselves the Friday night before in David Park. Finished a draw, and it was a really high intense game. It could have been a championship final. You know, it was that important to both sets of players and management alike. It felt like a league decider. It was for St Peter's, I felt, because that gave them a real momentum and a real platform then to go on and believe that they could go and win in Cullaville. Now, they had a difficult game on the Sunday against Wolf Tones, which they won comfortably. But we then played Cullaville on the Sunday, and they annihilated us. I mean, yes, we were poor, and there was still a hangover from the Friday night game with St Peter's and injuries and all the rest of it. But Cullaville annihilated us, and I felt that they would at least get a point or two. I didn't think they'd have annihilated St Peter's on the Wednesday night, but I thought the whole thing of going up to South Armagh on a Wednesday night for a big game, it was an actual league decider. Whoever won the league. I expected Cullaville to get over the line there, and when I heard the result, I said to myself, just right there in that moment, that St Peter's are proper contenders for this championship. They are a united group. They're very passionate about their club, like most Lurgan teams. They do have the two players, the two linchpins that the lads have spoke about, but they've got other lads there that'll quite literally run through brick walls for the team and for the club. They're very fit, they're very organised, and they've got a lot of momentum. Now, interestingly, I've done a bit of an analysis on the league, and league football is league football, I understand that, but it gives you a good indication of where any group of players is at. And if you do a simple subtraction from points scored to points conceded, St Peter's have the highest difference in any of the top 4 divisions. They have a plus 80. So that shows you that they're strong at both ends of the pitch. And coupled with the match winners that the lads have spoke about, the whole momentum that they have, the belief that they'll now have from winning the league, you know what I mean? I think St Peter's quite regularly consider themselves contenders, but it's not going to be plain sailing for them.
Okay, we're going to take a break in a few minutes, and we're going to go to the big stage in the county, which is the senior championship. We're going to have a chat with Desi Henderson very soon. Desi is celebrating the 75th anniversary with Turning Oak here in Portadown. And then we're going to get stuck into the seniors, which is going to be a lot of food for thought. That's the big issue. Live here at Turning Oak Club in the interval, basically, of the first Armagh live championship debate. We're discussing all the different championships in Armagh. We're here at the Turning Oak Club in Portadown, a very, very famous club with their chairman, bar staff organiser, and you name it, Desi Henderson, who's basically everything at the club at the minute. Desi's doing a lot of work, and always has done for a number of years. As we all know, Brian Mallon played for Turning Oak. Jack Bratton, going back a bit, Andy Mallon, Andrew McCann played for them as well in the All-Ireland team in 2002. Desi, you have a big year coming up very soon, 75th anniversary. What's your plans?
Well, we've had plans all year. This is our 75th anniversary, 1943. The Turning Oak was established. Having said that, Gaelic football in this area has been played from the early part of the century. There's been previous clubs in and around Portadown. We've charted the history of that. This year we're updating our history for Turning Oak. We're producing a publication for 75th anniversary dinner, which will be held in the Glenavan Hotel on the 17th of November. Rowan McAlinton, who ironically is managing St Peter's at the moment, which we talked about during the discussion, is doing that history for us. Rowan, albeit that he manages St Peter's, there's a tremendous amount of work in around the club at underage level, and it'll culminate in the gala dinner on the 17th of November this year.
Excellent. What sort of input have you had from the club on the committee? Are you expecting big numbers on it? Are you getting members of the community to it?
Yeah, we would be disappointed if we didn't get big numbers to it. We are a thriving club. We have a tremendous number of volunteers working at underage level. We don't get always the rewards we get at senior level, and that's something that we have to work on. But this year has been good for us. Our leagues have won their league. Our under-14s have won their league and championship. Our minors have just won their league last week, and our under-16s are in the final of their league in 2 weeks' time also. So a lot of work going on at underage level. Our senior team's in transition, we know that. A number of players come to its end. Brian Mallon come to his end. Paul Carver come to the end, so we're trying to bring a lot of players. And for the first time in a number of years, we have had a minor team that is all at that level, so not having to use under 16s to boost the minor
coming
team
through together
and coming through together. So we are hopeful for the future.
Desi, the place looks really well here. You have it in good shape. I know you've back in the community. On development wise, what have you done basically outside and on the playing situation?
Well, I come back as chairman 5 years ago. I was asked to come back as chairman to see could we take it to another level. And in those 5 years, we've achieved a lot. We've got a club identity which was missing for a long time. To see kids walk about Portadown with turnout tops on them, turnout colours on them, it's a tremendous feeling.
Okay.
You know, we're now competing with the soccer tops, the Liverpool tops, Manchester United tops. So our kids, we run a cool camp here 2 weeks ago where there was 90 kids involved in that. So there's a tremendous atmosphere for Gaelic football about the town. And over those 5 years we've established an identity. We have built new changing rooms out the side. You know, that was over a £500,000 project. A lot of people worked very hard, and probably the only club in the county who has dedicated changing rooms for female footballers.
Excellent.
And that was one of the things that we done. We set it to start. You know, sometimes ladies football is looked upon as almost secondary till what else goes on.
Yeah.
We in the club look at that as vitally important.
Okay.
And when we planned our change rooms, we actually ensured is that there were dedicated change rooms that took in the needs of our female members. So, you know, first club in the county to do that. So we're quite proud of what we have now.
What you've achieved,
For future development, we're looking at a number of projects where we can get additional facilities. The new facility in the park, the new pitch in the park has been a tremendous.
The People's Park.
In the People's Park.
Is that available to turn over?
Well, it's available to us when we need it,
Okay.
and it's been a huge assist to us. We actually played an Ulster Senior League game in the People's Park this year, and we're looking at other developments in conjunction with a number of schools to develop further facilities.
Okay.
Because as you know, we are restricted here.
Yeah.
We have one pitch, we have 16 teams, so you can imagine the difficulties.
A lot
But
of
we
usage.
get, you know, we get assistance. We use the park. We also use the school, Drumkey College. So we use that also. So, but we're looking for an additional facility quite close at the minute, and we have a project under discussion at this moment in time to see how it
Well,
goes.
good luck to you, Daisy, and thanks very much.
Okay, thanks very much indeed.
Turnanog assisted us here and accommodated us in the first Armada we ever had. I'd like to thank Des, the chairman of the club, and all the club members in Turnanog, all the people in Portadown, all the committee in Turnanog as well. So we'll be back here, Daisy, in a couple of months' time, and then we'll be able to predict who's going to win the championship properly.
Pleasure to have
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you.